Give you a demonstration of what the romance of the sea is really all about from the perspective of a young man that gets recruited to be a whaler. In the second half, we'll be talking about the history of whaling here in California and getting down to our love of Orange County. To be more particular, I'll be talking about Newport Beach's history in whaling. How many here know that Newport Beach has a great history of whaling? Only a couple. Everybody here from the area, though? You think they teach that in school? Well, that's right. Whaling occurred in Nantucket, slavery occurred in the South, and California is the Sunshine State. Everything we did is right, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'll be talking about that today. If at any time during the presentation, if you have a question, feel free to stop me. Give me a break, and be more than happy to address the question. At the end, I'll be talking about all the different items that are here. These are all museum quality items, but the difference is they belong to me and you're welcome to play with them. Whatever you break, I've got a replacement for it. Okay, I've got a large, most of these items are duplicates upon duplicates. Okay, all right. Men wanted, hazardous bay. You might see that someplace. Let's start with here. Let's hope this works. There we go. Here you are. You're a young man living up maybe in Fullerton. That's how you look at life, from the hind end of a horse. And you daydream. You daydream about foreign places, exotic women. You daydream about, oh, what is this? This is a broadsheet. You find, down to the harbor. You go down, and men wanted. You've got great pay, adventure. You meet up with a couple of fellas. These are the signing agents. They're going to promise you that you're going to get rich. That's going to be gone for maybe 2 or 3 months. You'll be treated the best. Reality is, a whaling vessel would go out minimum 2 to 3 years, more likely 5 to 7 years. You might come back in 11 years, was the longest on record. You sign up your articles. You'll specify what you are qualified to be it a greenhorn, be it a bosun, be it whatever level you are, then you get paid commensurate to that. You're on a lay system. So, for example, if you're a greenhorn, you get 1/30th of 1% of the net profit. If the voyage is broken, which means you didn't make a profit, or for any reason you don't complete the voyage, you get paid nothing. What you end up getting paid as a greenhorn is about $6 per month, which at that time is about the same as a farm laborer. Now these are some fellows here. I'm in the lending industry. I understand them well. These are called land sharks. They will ask you, do you have a rig? We're going to the Arctic. We're going down the South Pacific. And just so happens they had some extra items that they will loan you at a high interest, all due and payable upon your return from your voyage. Now guess who gets your voyage money? The land sharks. You head on down to the wharf. That's your introduction. Those casks there are filled with supplies. During the course of the voyage, they'll be filled with oil and bone. Now the term bone sometimes is confusing. They're not collecting skeletal bone. They're collecting baleen out of the mouth of a baleen whale. So they refer to that as bone. So every time you hear me refer to as bone, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? All right, these are heavy. It's all manual labor. Bring up the capstan. It's ready to go. You'll notice they're not wearing shoes. All these instruments up here are very sharp. It's very common that a whaler does not have all the toes. You meet the captain. He is the decider of all issues. He's your doctor. He's your confessioner. He's your disciplinarian. You don't want to cross the captain. What happens if they can't get enough whalers? Shanghai whalers. Now what does that mean, Shanghai? That means, very simply, you might be down here at the port, run across somebody, have a drink, have another drink, then all of a sudden you're comatose. They haul you aboard. You've been shanghaied, kidnapped. Now you belong to that captain for the entire voyage. Could be years. Now, wouldn't you have redress in the courts? Kidnapping, right? Mistreatment. Under the U.S. federal law, a whaler or a sailor was so low on the social status, just like a child must obey his parent, a sailor or whaler must obey the captain. You had no rights. And that was the law of the land until 1915. So you wake up, there you are, see over to the right-hand side there, being drugged over, you'll be taken on board that ship, hauled up. Now you could be comatose, you could be dead. What they'll do is sew a live rat in your clothes, wiggles a little bit, and the guy looks, because you've got to be alive, otherwise they don't get paid. And what they get paid is your normal advance. If you volunteer, they give you an advance. If you get shanghaied, the guy that shanghaied you gets that advance. That's how they get paid. Discipline. This is a cat of 9 tails. You've heard of them? The reason they call it a cat of 9 tails, that's a cat knot. It has 9 tails. If you get catted, that will break your spirit. So it's a last resort. More likely, you'll be put in chains. Ever heard the term? Put that man in chains? You heard that? Very simple. You're put down below deck. That goes around the base of the mast. Now this is down the wash, all the bilge water. Sulfuric gas from the decomposing whale oil. Sit around, that goes on your legs, this goes around the mast and the bottom, and you sit there for as long as the captain stays that you stay in chains. Never mind personal hygiene. If anyone tries to assist you, they will join you. Can you imagine what it'd be like up in the Arctic with that kind of weather conditions? And all that water is coming down below decks to the forecastle where you live? Homesick. You're always thinking of home. You may not have been able to say goodbye. And seasick. But don't worry. The chef has an easy cure. He'll take a piece of raw pork. You'll love this one. Tie it to a piece of string. Have you swallow it. And as they yank it out, all your seamen's victuals will come out with it, and you're ready for some hardtack. And there you go. You're ready for a hot meal. There's the forecastle. See it up in the forehead? I don't know if this button here works. But down at the bottom, the very forward portion, that's the forecastle. That's the figurehead. So the water washes against that. So any water coming through, you're going to get it. If they're underway, you get the banging of the waves. The captain's all the way in the back. Down the bulge, that's where all the whale oil is stored. And that forms sulfuric gas, rotten eggs. So you get that constant smell, that water coming down between the decks, crashing against the bulkhead. That's where you'll be for a number of years. Get the romance of the sea yet? That's a picture of an actual forecastle. Your shipmate's feet are going to be so close to your nose, you'll get the first scent. They're about 5 feet tall, because you want to maximize the space for the whale oil. Now here's a lady on board. I want a lady on board. Why? Ladies on board? There were no lady whalers. That would be the captain's wife. Be gone all that number of years, many whalers were born aboard deck. That's your forever companion. Don't worry, they don't eat much. There's your daily exercise. Go up and swab the deck. I got an example here. It's all the way in the back. but it's called a honeystone. Every morning you get up and you scrape that deck. If you got whale oil on that thing, can you imagine how slippery that is in all these sharp instruments? So you want to scrub that deck every morning. That's your exercise. Now you could be up in the Arctic freezing to death. You could be down below boiling in the heat. Bored to death up on the fulcrum. Now that's up in the mast. You were looking for whales. Now can you imagine how that would be? Back and forth at the top of that mast for 4 hours. That's a watch. 4 hours. Now don't get your emotions up. If you can't find whales, you can always use seals. Takes about 3 good sea lions to get 1 barrel of oil. Walruses, sea lions, anything that you can boil. Sure terror when you come up on a whale. Now a sperm whale has the same strength as 10 bull elephants. Now can you imagine coming up on him on one of these little 30-foot boats with half-inch wood? I've got an example back here. That all it takes is a hit of any of those fins and that boat goes down. You've been stoved. And you're in that freezing water. Whalers, by the way, intentionally do not learn to swim. Why? Why prolong the inevitable? You're not being rescued. What they're doing here is they are boiling the blubber. You bring it up on deck, you cut it into sections, it goes down to the blubber room, you cut it up into squares, you then mince it with a mincing knife. So now it looks like bacon. It's going down into the blubber and it's being boiled. How would they keep the fire going? They're aboard a ship. How could they keep the fire going? With the blubber. But wait a minute, blubber's what you're trying to get. So it can't be the oil. What could it be?
Fat?
No, that's what you're rendering down. The rind. The rind. They'll take that, you see a big strainer back here, you're bringing out the rind and throwing that into the fire because that's flammable, but you're not boiling up your product.
How many men are
32. That's what a whaler looks like. It's called a blubber boat. You could always tell it was a whaler if you're downwind. Can you imagine what that would look like at night? Now keep in mind, when you catch a whale, you have to constantly work on it. There's no ship, well, it's time to get off. No, you work on it until that whale is done. If they're bringing in another one, you continue working 24-hour shifts till all the whales are rendered. Dante's Inferno, what it looks like at night. That's a picture of what it looks like to work on a blubber boat. That's baleen there in front of you. Oily, dirty mess. Then each of that, whenever you get done, that all has to be cleaned up. Spotless. If you're a greenhorn, who would be the youngest here? Okay, he's a greenhorn, all right? You get the best jobs, okay? You get to grease the halyards, come all the way down the lines with the grease. When you get a sperm whale, you get to be lowered into the head of the sperm whale with a little bucket to get the last morsel of sperm whale. And how they lower you down? By your ankles. They lower you down head first, and they get out the very last of it and draw it up. You're lucky devil. Now, you work 6 days a week. You get 1 day off. You could play your instruments. You can get a tattoo or tattoos. You could do scrimshaw. Now, how do they scrimshaw? Anyone here that's curious how do they scrimshaw? They take an ugly looking sperm whale tooth like this. It's all ridges. Think about one of your teeth. Can you imagine trying to draw something on one of your teeth that's all ridges? The term scrimshaw means to waste time. If I have to refer to you as a scrimshander, that means you're a waster of time. So the fellows have absolutely nothing else to do. The captains say, well, you can play with those teeth, sperm whale teeth because they have no utilitarian value to the captain. So they start working on it. All right, so you start off, you got this ugly looking tooth. Take your knife, you start scraping it. Now don't be in a big hurry. You got months and years to work on this puppy. And you get it down as basically as you can. Get it smoothed out. And then the next step, you take a piece of sand, kill that.
It's when?
It is shark skin.
Yeah.
Dried shark skin. Works just like sandpaper. You start working on it and working on it and working on it. You're trying to work it on down to make it somewhat smooth. Well, finally you get down to it's smooth, and then you start polishing it. Take an old piece of sheet off the scrap pile. You finally get it down where it's smooth. That kind of looks like this, kind of shiny. Now you're ready to scrimshaw. Make a design, but you're not an artist. How do we do it?
Patterns.
A pattern. What would you use for a pattern?
Pictures.
Very simple. You take a weekly magazine,
Paper of some sort.
and you have the same image. Now, all the other whalers are looking at the same magazine you are, right? And then they take anything sharp, and they start poking holes. Then they connect the lines, and they make a pattern. So you have thousands and thousands of these images. I said there's a lot of these that are duplicates. There are thousands of these duplicates. The same image. That's why on the old ones, they're never signed. They're not the designer of it. Now the oldest ones, you want to look at these close. Like this one, can you see? All you see is dots.
Yeah.
That's 1700s. They hadn't learned to connect the dots yet. Later ones, like here, oh, they connect the dots. 1800s. They're learning to put more than one on the same tooth. They're putting multiple images, like somebody tattoos here. Well, they're taking different ones and adding them up. Again, that's in the 1900s. So you can pretty well age how old they are just by the type of designs. If you see one that is signed, it's brand new, 20th century. Okay. All right. By the way, the law is the same. Don't sell this stuff. You don't buy this stuff. It's strictly collections. That's it. Or if you don't want to scrimshaw, you can read your Bible. Or you could take a bath. Now, who was my victim? Right here. Victim? Yeah. Now, it's your day off, and it's your turn to take a bath. You should be happy, right? You got that whale grease through your hair, your ears are plugged, it's in every pore of your body. You can't smile without showing it, right? So you're all excited. So here's the bathtub. Come on in, get in. All right? Have a seat. That's your bathtub. Now hold this. This is your toothbrush. Now, what are you going to use for soap?
Now
Now that's what you're trying to get off. Any other ideas?
the spermicidal.
Spermicide? No, that's very, very expensive stuff. That's product.
Yeah.
What did the ancient Romans use to clean their clothes?
Lye.
No, lye, you get that from hardwoods. And there's no hardwoods up in the Arctic. You got to burn hardwoods and you get it from the ash. Any other suggestions? Steve, come on. All right, what would you use for soap? Okay. Who cleans windows at home?
Vinegar.
No.
Salt.
Ammonia. Okay, what's an ammonia?
Pee.
Urine. So every day, all the whalers have made their contribution. So by the end of the week, there's enough for one guy to take a bath. But you're lucky. Okay, here was your toothbrush. Each morning, now during the week, it's clean, right? So you can dip your toothbrush and brush your teeth every morning. Congratulations. Doesn't she look so nice and clean now? Doesn't she look clean? Give her a sniff. Anybody feeling romantic yet? Okay. All right, here's a typical crew. Different ages, different nationalities, speak different languages. The guy fourth from the left is kind of a profile. He was lost aboard this ship. This is another picture of him. Good looking kid. That's the last image they had of him.
Oh.
Don't worry. All whalers wear an earring. Why would they wear an earring? Sailors and whalers always wore that gold earring.
So they could hook you on the water.
Well, you know you're not going to swim, right? You know you're not going to get rescued. So when you wash up on shore someplace, that'll pay for your funeral. So next time you see a guy wearing earrings, oh, you're worried about drowning at sea. But that's what it was for. It was actually a practical purpose. Scurvy. Teeth fall out. The last step is your mind goes. And that's you get abandoned on some shore. And your family gets nothing. You could die falling from the rigging. You could be stove by a whale. If you die by falling from the rigging, it's bad luck to have a corpse on board ship. So they'll wrap you up in an old sail, put some ballast stones around your ankles. The captain will say a few words. Then, based upon every sailor's wish, they will save the last stitch for him. Now, have you ever heard that phrase? Please save the last stitch for me. This is a sailor's needle, pretty good size. What they would do, they would start at the bottom and sew it all the way up and bring it all the way up to your head, and the last stitch goes through your nose to make sure that you're really dead. So please, save the last stitch for me. You ever wondered what that phrase meant? Now you know. Okay. All right, where was it? Now you're on the return home. The worst treatment, the worst food that you can ever imagine. Why? You're on the lay system. If you don't make it, more for everybody else. Captain says, the medicine man, take that medicine, take more of that medicine. You better obey. Finally get back, they measure up the whale oil. That's the size of, can you imagine you get your toe stuck underneath that puppy? All done with manual labor. All right, you're back home. Your wages were taken by the land shark. You have no social position. You've been gone for years. You've got no money. Your wife or girlfriend have left. What are your options? You have no trade.
Go back. Go out on another ship.
You end up on Skid Row when your money runs out. Then as a policeman, that's where I used to run across these people back in the 60s down in San Pedro.
The last photo of town, do you know where that was taken?
Nantucket. So what do you decide to do? Well, maybe the captain wasn't all that bad, and maybe the land sharks will give me an advance. Maybe I might even get promoted. So you go back to sea as you asked. That's your trade. You are now a whaler for life.
What about sailmaker trade?
That is a occupation.
Okay.
So you'd be given a higher lay,
Okay.
a higher percentage. If you were a barrel maker,
Okay.
you could make boats. All these different trades. If you were a boat steer, if you knew how to harpoon, if you're an officer, that goes all the way up to the captain. But you better not say you're a cook, and you're not a cook, because you will pay the wrath of that captain. All right. So, who watches the Travel Channel, Mysteries of the Museum? Anybody? Our family's the only one. It's a good show. What they start off every week with is some item, some innocuous item out of the museum, and then the whole story is going to be behind that particular item. So the next little talk I give is on California whaling, and this pair of binoculars has a key role in it. Can you read the top?
Richard M. Nixon.
Oh,
Wow.
can you read that letter? It's kind of hard.
The field glasses with the initials RN on the case belong to my brother Richard Nixon.
Father.
Father. Thank you. And he gave them to David and me for bird watching when we moved to a home on the beach in California where many birds skimmed the waters and whales and porpoises swam at great distances. And I see Eisenhower, January 1982. Is it Julie? Julie
Anybody know who that is? Julie Nixon.
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 Oh, okay.
That's his daughter.
That's her personalized.
Wow.
Now I acquired these off of an auction site in New York, and it came with this letter. Nobody bid on it but me. It's $50.
Wow. Amazing.
So when I obtained them, I then took them up to the Yorba Linda, and I said, "Hey, do you have any maybe a photograph that would go with this? Be kind of nice for my dog and pony show." And well, who are you? So I give them all my name and information. Now they know everything about me. They said, "No, we don't have anything." Following week, my daughter will testify. I'm in my home office. My wife is standing next to me. I answer the phone, and it's a screaming woman. "I'm going to call the FBI. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All my dad's stuff is in warehouses. We've never sold anything. How did you come into possession of my dad's stuff?" Luckily, this came with it. So I started reading it to her. "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she turned out to be a real sweetheart, and she's given me a lot of insight into her dad when they were living in the Western White House in San Clemente. It was Julie.
Wow.
So, but getting back to why is this important to our story? Well, let's start our story. Where did I go with my toy? There it is. Nantucket, Quakers. They're the one that started it back in the 1700s. You'll recognize some of the families. Chase, Starbucks. Anybody recognize either one of those families?
Texans were Quakers.
Ah, that's part of the tie-in, isn't it?
Maybe.
They're our first and only presidents that were Quakers. Our Quakers started it, and our only president, you just took the whole, all right, we
I'm sorry, I didn't, I'm sorry.
don't you love it, Tony? You say punchline. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
This is typically how they work in the whaleboat. And when you first come in, there's a whaleboat to your right. That's what a whaleboat looks like. It's about 30 feet long, made out of 1/2-inch light wood. And that's how they would start. And you get stowed by the whale. Now, here's a map of the world in 1850. I don't know if you can focus it all that well, but there's the United States there. Do you notice that there's no whaleboats on the Atlantic side of the United States at 1850? All the whaleboats are in the Pacific. The Atlantic had been whaled out already. So the whalers were our first explorers. They were our first naturalists. They traveled the world looking for whales. But meantime, they're meeting new countries and new cultures, and they recorded in their log. Again, when you come in on the right-hand side, there's a whaler's log. You'll notice sometimes there's a picture of a whale on there. There'll be a number in the middle of it. That's how many barrels of oil they got from that particular whale. If you see it only with the tail, that means they saw it, they got away. If it's just the head, that means they looked at them, but they never got close. So that's the log. All right, so it's 1850, and they come around, and they're now coming to the Pacific. In the course of the Pacific, we harvested 750,000 whales off the coast of California. Richard Henry Dana. His Dana Point, right? It was originally called Dana's Point, by the way. He met them down, the whalers, the shore whalers down in San Diego. He talks in his book about the whalers. Well, he was camped right next to a whaling station down there. Sandwich Islands, this is Honolulu, is a whaling station. San Francisco, whaling station. Now this is prior to the gold rush. I'll show you another picture later on what happened after the gold rush. Now these are all whalings. You can take a look at them. They all look like a bunch of John Morgans out there with the same stripe. Looks like, if you look at them, it looks like a cannon ports. That's just to fake out the pirates. It makes it look like you've got cannons. That's why they have the stripe with the dots in it. Those are whalers. Then came the gold rush. Not all that glitters is gold. This is after the gold rush. These are the same vessels out there in the harbor. Now you see where those ports are? It looks like guns? Yeah, it's just paint. So you can paint circles to make it look like a gun barrel. So what are they going to do? The only occupation they have is a whaler. And they didn't make it as a gold miner. So they developed shore whaling. We had shore whaling stations all the coast of California, from San Diego all the way up to Crescent City, Los Angeles, everywhere, about every 30 to 40 miles. And all it would take is 3 or 4 of us get together. We get one guy with a telescope on top of the ridge looking for the spouts. Well, we can tell what kind of whale it is by the type of spout. If it's a biline that goes forward, backward, we're watching, and then I got a wave flag. There's one back here, and I just direct you in the boat out there which way to go to chase the whale. Go to shore whale. That's it. Very simple. No walkie-talkies. So we're going down. Here's what we got coming up. All right, this is a typical whaling station. Everything is done on shore. Instead of harvesting the whale and cleansing it out on board a ship, you bring it in to the shoreline and do everything on shore. You've got about 2 to 3 days to get it down, otherwise it goes rancid. That's up in Moss Landing, as I recall. Typical shed. They asked me to come up there and give a talk. That's for the inside. These are the same toys I've got. See on the wall back there? That's a whale boat right there that you're looking at. These are the same vessels that are on board the ship. They render down the blubber. Now here's the fellow with the wave flag. Here's a guy with a telescope. I've got pictures over here, prints of these. Now you can imagine the thrill of doing that. Okay, you get out here outside of the Newport. You put a harpoon into a whale, equivalent to 10 charging elephants. Then you hold on for dear life as that whale takes you for a Nantucket sleigh ride. Because that harpoon does not kill the whale. That's a misnomer. Well, all you're going to do is tire it down. And then when it gets really tired, you're going to take this tool. This is called a spade. If you look at the end, it's not necessarily sharp. It looks like a spade. And you get close enough, and you bring it down like this, and that goes into the vital organs. That finally kills the whale. But it's not until you've slowed him down and tired him out. Now, who's the strongest person here? Who's the strongest man here? Raise your hand. There we go. Thank you for raising your hand. Yeah, you don't.
Okay, Kristen,
No
but
more.
I volunteered to try out the whale. He looked like a great whaler. man.
Once you get to my age, you'll know what
Yeah.
it feels like.
Okay. Now what this is an 1870 whale gun. Now you have a choice. You can put the harpoon in the whale, or let's see if I got one around here. Anybody see a bomb? Walk right by. There you go. This is the bomb. Why do I do talks and there's police there? I always ask them, I know I can't carry a gun, but can I carry a bomb? You know, it's okay. All right, that's the bomb. You can put this down there, goes out, and then it goes into the whale and has TNT in it, has a fuse, and when it gets down in there, it explodes. You save the whale, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you did. It didn't get away, did you? It didn't get away, so you saved it. So the whalers looked at it, I saved another whale today. So you accomplished your goal. All right, so what you want to do, okay, you're going to be on the front of that little boat, right? You're going up and down, sideways, right?
Yeah.
And this is the first whale we've seen in a month. So it's all going to be up to you. You got one shot to put it into the whale, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now go ahead and take position. Now we'll be careful.
Right.
On this, don't put it across your sternum here, because the recoil will break your sternum and you'll die. And don't start by leaning back, because you'll end up in the water.
Yeah.
So you got to lean forward, keep your spine forward, right? Everybody think you can do it?
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, put it on your right shoulder.
On my right shoulder.
Not looking at it.
Oh
that?
boy, you're not a marksman, are
I'm
you?
not.
Try it the other way.
Oh,
There
oh,
we
thanks to all my
go.
shoulders.
Okay, now bring this up to here. No, no.
Wait.
Get your shoulder.
Oh, like that. Like that.
Hey.
Sorry.
Okay, now you're not leaning forward.
Okay, so.
Now, but now hold it up so you can. All right, lean forward, bend that forward knee. All right. Okay, now everybody, real quietly, slowly. Well, what are you shivering? It's not cold.
This thing's heavy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a lot heavier than the burritos I normally bring. Press.
How much does that gun
Tell me, how old was your son when he weighed that much?
Let's see. How about
your scuba tanks?
I think you're stronger than I am, Jessica.
I don't know.
Come on, Jessica.
How would I know how much your child weighed? Yeah. All right. Okay. Now that's one option. You can use the regular harpoons, or we've got something that's even niftier. This is called a dart gun. This is the one when my daughter here, she bought tickets to go to the Smithsonian, and they asked me if I really had one of these and if I would donate it. This is a combination of that harpoon gun and a regular harpoon. Neat, right? Because what you can do is you can take this harpoon and put it into the whale. As it goes in, there's a trigger mechanism back here that is released when this hits the height of the whale. So I put the harpoon in, this trigger mechanism releases the trigger, and a bomb comes out. How neat can that be? Huh? Pretty neat? You like that one? Okay. That's called a dart gun. Now this one I found only, I could see this much of it, not the harpoon, that was being sold with a bunch of surveying equipment. But looking at it online, I go, you know, that almost looks like a heart. No, that mechanism in there. So I had to buy this whole bunch of junk to get that one piece. Anybody need some surveying Okay, okay, there we are. That's called a Nantucket sleigh ride. You hold on to that and you be 20 miles per hour. So you're headed out, you start at Newport, you might end up all the way to Catalina before that whale finally tires out. You're able to put the spade to him and he dies. Now the work starts, you think. because you have to row that whale about 1 knot per hour, assuming decent tides, to bring them all the way into the shoreline. Now the work starts, because now you've got to crank them onto the shore with what they call a crab, which is, let's see if they got one in here. No, I don't have one. They're called devilfish. That's gray whales. Oh, here we go. This is a crab. See how they're pulling that whale on board on the shoreline. Now you start cutting it up. This happens to be down in San Diego, this group of folks. You can see they're standing on top of the whale. Well, wouldn't you think that'd be a little bit slippery? Over here, solution. We learned about these from the Indians. They're made out of iron, and you can walk on board on top of the whale without slipping off. Isn't that nifty? I don't know where you can get them. Okay. And then you carry it up to the vats. Now, what would happen is a community would say, hey, there's a new business in town. Some whalers are going to have it open up a station. That's great for the local economy until the first time they catch a whale. And then they realize their laundry and everything else is covered with this whale oil. There's an example of them shooting that gun. See, that's you right there.
Yeah.
Now see how he's leaning forward? Yeah. Later on, this is about 20 years later, see the whale gun on that one's attached to the bow. They go for about 15 grand, and the wife says I have to take up a contribution. This is Dr. Skimmons. He worked for the Coast Guard. He was a naturalist, and he single-handedly almost destroyed the entire gray whale population. Gray whale identification, you folks know a lot about this. Baleen, okay, that again is referred to as bone by the whalers. Used for corsets, buggy whips. They're used for maintaining discipline aboard the ship. This is baleen. Now I want to motivate you, and I crack your knee with it. Now, you've been motivated. Whereas this is a sperm whale. There's your spermaceta up at the top. So when you're going through where's our volunteer? See where you'll be going down through the top, you'll be getting that spermaceta right there. Okay? Draw you a picture. 1950s through 1971, 15 tons of spermaceta for the automatic transmission fluid. American owner. 15 tons of spermaceta per year. When Nixon signed the order in 72, no more whaling. Well, wouldn't that be a problem for the automobile industry? No. Because if you look, sperm whales were never considered endangered. When they put the ban on in 71, it only applied to baleen whales. Did not apply to sperm whales. Do you think this had any influence on that? The demand from the automobile industry? But come to find out, the conquistadors introduced jojoba beans to us 4 centuries ago. Jojoba beans and spermaceta are both esters. But it's not a true oil. So today, when you buy a quart of transmission fluid, it says synthetic. It's not spermaceta. That's what that means. Follow the money. These are the locations for whaling stations throughout California. There's a few more that I haven't added that I found out about. Locally, Catalina, Long Beach. Dead Man's Island is San Pedro. There's a few of them that have now, in the last 20 years, have at least put up a monument. This is one of the monuments they put up at the Portuguese Bend, which is just north of Los Angeles. That's whaling station where Pop became, where the Pacific Ocean Park. And now I think that is where our president now has his golf course.
Where's Pyramid Bay in Orange County? What were they referring to?
You're talking about the south end of San Clemente Island. I'll show you a picture of it.
Oh, okay.
That's part of my last part of the story here. Here's Dead Man's Island. See that island in the middle? They buried a whaling captain out there, so they call it Dead Man's Island. It's now part of the wharf. All right, this is an interesting fellow. This is Captain Loop. And that boat there is a tourist boat. He'd go out and harvest a whale and tie it up a buoy someplace and take people out for 10 cents and they would look at the dead whale. Keep in mind, back in this era, whales were the big thing. I mean, they were a mystery. So people would like to go look at them. They're good folks. They just never saw one before. So this is Captain Luke. And he also had a good whaling business. If you had the money, he would guarantee that you'd get a whale. So this is one of his customers, Theodore Roosevelt. And they also had a nifty deal where they'd take a whale and they'd have 10, I'm trying to remember the numbers, 10 morticians, 14 days, 5,000 gallons of, it wasn't formaldehyde, it was similar to formaldehyde that they used to embalm the whale. Yeah, usually didn't work too well. Within a few days, it would start stinking, and they have to bring back and go catch another whale. But they did this for years throughout the whole country. In one of the books in there, I've got a bunch of brochures, and they would just kind of change the name of the town, you know, they change the background. But it's the same group. He was quite a entrepreneur. Now, do you recognize this location? That's a whaler there. That's the Pacific Ocean. Those are two roads.
That's what you see.
Newport?
Newport Boulevard.
With a whaler?
Before there was a harbor, right?
Yeah.
Like 1830.
That's Newport.
Yeah, the arches.
That's
The
Newport.
arches, the
Yeah,
road.
that's where Arches.
The
Arches would be right over here.
Yeah.
So it'd be the same.
That's
as the river.
Newport Beach. I got some more Newport in here. I'll be done. Now, another guy named Diedrich and his son were both whaling captains. California Sea Products. Here's another Newport. Anybody recognize this headline?
A whale roast?
Oh
How about a nice whale roast, like for dinner? A roast. I got the recipe book back here in the corner. Okay? All put out by the U.S. Department of Commerce during the First World War and the Second World War. Roast beef. Beef was rationed for the troops in Europe. So, hey guys, we got whale out there. The new red meat. Now, what you're looking at is the world's first fully refrigerated factory ship developed in our beautiful downtown Newport Beach, California. The Japanese were envious. Right in the middle, got about section there, about 100 feet. That is a killer ship. I'll show you a close-up of it. The killer boat is the one that goes out and catches the whale and brings it to the factory ship. And that's what the killer ship was. So it goes out there and captures the whale and brings it into the factory. So on Sunday night, you come down for a roast for family dinner. But that's not the only thing they used them for. Now, you're asking about Pyramid. This is the south end of San Clemente Island. The #1 greatest place off the Pacific to catch whales. 70 miles off the coast of San Clemente. Beautiful area. The military uses it for bombing practice. Now this is what Captain Diedrich would use aboard his killer vessel. It also killed his son, who was also a whaler. The recoil on it killed his son, and then the Diedrich Sr. died within a year afterwards. Whale steak will become a habit. I can't read it. Don't miss it. It was about 15 cents a pound. All right, this is ivory soap. I got a bar of it somewhere. It was made from spermaceta.
Oh my goodness.
Margarine, they'd make that out of the whale bone. They would boil the bones, and the marrow and stuff that came from the bones would make it into margarine. Sugar, they take the whale bones and burn them after they got the margarine out of them. And that was considered pure carbon. And they would use it to purify, to whiten cane sugar. So cane sugar is naturally brown, and that would make it white. Fertilizer for the blood and the entrails. Dr. Ross dog food and Skippy. Anybody here old enough to remember them?
Yes.
Yeah. Kelly. No, can't be it. Actually, that's not true. I threw that in there. This is They used wild horses, okay? Indian horses, okay? So, but people protested. So what did they do? They went to whale. He was over here in Los Alamitos. Dr. Roth, whatever his middle initial was, he was from down like in the south, came out in about 34, opened up a little food processing plant in Los Alamitos, one of the Bixby buildings, where the beets got a bacteria in them, so he bought one of the buildings. And he then got protested by the people that felt bad for the horses. So he converted to whales, and he was so proud of it that he even put a float in the Rose Parade. Big whale, and everybody applaud. Yay, they're eating the whale. Those darn devilfish. Wow. But this is like a carousel thing. That was his float. This was a few years later. He got a reward for this one, but it was pulled by horses. This is Dr. Ross. It was pulled by horses. And they got their revenge because they bolted. That's what this picture is showing. They went over the top of a number of spectators. 5 people were hospitalized. They sued him. He had no insurance to cover that. He died a pauper in bankruptcy court. Now, if I get this thing to work, he swore he'd stick around and show me how to do this. It didn't work.
I think it was fun. He's coming.
Yeah.
He's on his way.
There he is. I warned you. Don't give me one to hear one of these things. Or right at the right time. Just punch that thing and make the music. There it is. Now listen carefully to the words.
Dr. Ross dog food, do him a favor. Got more meat and it's got more flavor. Got more meat to make him feel the way he should. Dr. Ross dog food is doggone good. 5 rows then, 5 rows then.
Yes, Dr. Ross dog food has more meat, more flavors. 4 tempting flavors: meat, liver, chicken, and cheese. Keeps appetites sharp, provides insurance against malnutrition and loss of energy. Just like human beings, dogs want food with more flavor. Feed your dog the Dr. Ross variety diet with meat, liver, chicken, and cheese flavors. All 4 flavors have more lean red meat with just the right amount of fresh garden vegetables and the specially selected cereals. You just can't buy a better dog food. Buy it, try it. The Dr. Ross variety diet.
What's the one thing they didn't say?
Whale.
They didn't say what kind of meat. They said chicken
They didn't say.
and meat. This was 1950s. Wait a minute. Dr. Ross went belly up back in the 39. It was bought by Lewis Foods. They had a good thing going, so they continued all the way up through the 50s. They never changed the recipe. All the way up until the end of Dr. Ross, we were always whale meat and sea lions. They would harvest, I'm trying to remember the number, average of 180 a day for Dr. Ross. So on protest, there's a good one to go. All right, now that's in the 50s, right? So here's 1953. Everyone recognizes that man. He's a Grand Marshal. He's a senator. He's the Vice President-elect.
That's Nixon.
That's Cricket Daddy. All right. That's Pat beside him. Now, going back to these binoculars, binoculars is what he was given for being the Grand Marshal. Richard M. Nixon, Grand Marshal, Rose Parade, Pasadena, 1953. Okay, so now we got getting the tie-in. All right. Now, who are these folks? Interior Secretary. Yep. This is 1971 when they said that there's kind of running low on whales, so we better stop harvesting the baleen whales. Sperm whales still no problem. But we've got Mr. Nixon down at the Western White House. Now this is during Watergate. He didn't have a lot of friends. He would spend hours sitting there watching the whales off of San Clemente Island. Here's a picture of San Clemente Island with an orca. That's the state that overlooks the ocean. That's him, 1972. It applied to not only whales, sea lions, polar bears, everything. Up until that point, they were free game except for the baleen whales. The baleen whales were just limited because of the shortage. This is the last whaling station in California. Want to guess what year this picture was taken?
74.
70s?
19th, what? No, wrong century. 2016.
What?
They didn't dismantle it until last year, 2017. They're still waiting for the stock to get brought back up. They didn't want to give away that good land. So now it's finally being developed. They've torn that down.
Where is it?
Of all places in California, San Francisco. There's a picture that his daughter sent me. That's what his friends were like during the era of Watergate. That's right on the beach down below. Those are the surfers. The Secret Service, for obvious reasons, wanted to stop all the surfers from getting any access while he was there at the White House, while he was at the Western White House. But he insisted allowing the surfers to be allowed in there. These are some of the animals that he protected. What are the animals in the lower right? I always forget.
Manatees.
Imagine harvesting manatees. That was big. Now we've got the next video ready. Let's see if it's going to work. Ready? Now, what this is, in the tape, the narrator will say that this is the Charles Morgan off of Nantucket. It's a film they made in 1922. The reality is, it's not the Charles Morgan. It's a lookalike. It's called the Wanderer that was working the California coast, and the location is Avalon. So this is a film they made in 1922.
100 feet off the deck, 2-hour
whales
shift
in her
looking for whales. He has spotted a pod of sperm whales. He can tell they're sperm whales by the way they spout. The sperm whale has a single spout, port side of his head, that goes forward at a 45-degree angle. The right whale has a V-shaped spout, and those were their two favorite whales, so it's nice they could recognize them from a distance by their spouts. Most of the other whales have double spouts, the way you think of whales spouting. All hands on deck. Plenty of work to be done. Get ready to lower the boats and go catch a whale. You catch a glimpse of a little tidbit for the captain's table. There are probably a couple of hogs and some chickens aboard for the captain's table. He made out a lot better than ordinary crewmen did. The captain's bunk was on gimbals, meaning he didn't swing and sway when the ship did. First thing they do when they get ready to lower the boats is take off their shoes for many good reasons. They don't want to have to buy new shoes from the captain's slop chest. He'll soak them for anything they buy from him. They don't want shoes on if they're going swimming. But the important reason is they
Try
don't
this visual with
want
the
to
cameraman.
make any
This
noise
is
in the
Frank
bottom
camera,
of the boat.
1922.
The whale has extremely good hearing, poor eyesight. They're going to be able to sneak quietly up behind him. They're using a sail in the whaleboat. Most of the whaleboats had sails by 1850. Nice quiet way of saving a lot of human energy. And they're using small paddles with the sail. You can see all of the standard whaleboat equipment in that real whaleboat, the real New Bedford whaleboat, in the pagoda room. Well, everything except the sail. It's hard to see these small paddles, but they are in the boat. They're way down in the bottom of the boat. Easy to see the big heavy oars, and you'll notice they are marked. One has 5 dots, one has 3 dots, 1 dot, 1 stripe. They're marked because you have to get the right oar in the right seat. There's a 17-foot oar in the center, 3 dots, 2 16, 2 15-foot oars. The 6th oar has an extra wooden handle. That is the steering oar, used by the boat header. He's the captain or one of the mates who stands in the stern of the boat, and he's in charge. The whale swims along about 4 knots. If nobody's paying any attention to him, he can easily get his speed up to 8 or 10 knots. The top speed of the whaleboat is 7 knots. So you see why they don't want to galley the whale. They do have to use the big heavy oars at the last minute to close in on the whale. They want to be almost on top of him. He'll be a little bit port side of the boat, wood to black skin. The man pulling the bow oar I would call the harpooner, but his fellow workers called him the boat steerer, because a little later he's going to go back and steer the boat when the boat header comes forward to kill the whale. Right now he's pulling the bow oar, waiting for word from the boat header to stand up and harpoon the whale. He got word, stands up, balances his leg in the clumsy cleat, a little notch carved in the bow, picks up the harpoon, gets ready to dart the iron. One tosses, darts, or heaves the harpoon. You don't throw it. That's not good whale talk. He darts the iron. The boat is double-ended. They back off as fast as they can. They have to get out of the way of the whale's tail. The whale is now in complete charge, and he decides which direction the boat is going to take. Off they go on the Nantucket sleigh ride. There are 1,800 feet of line the whale can take out. That's 300 fathoms. 225 in the large tub, 75 in the other one. The line goes from the large tub around the loggerhead in the stern, through the boat, out to the whale. They have to keep throwing water on it as it goes around the loggerhead so the whole thing won't burn up from the friction. This poor man, nothing but water to protect his hands. The other guy has a nipper, they call it, a little pad in his hand. They say they couldn't wear gloves. Too dangerous. They might be caught in the line and dragged overboard. That whale can now get his speed up in short bursts to 20 or 22 knots. He really wants to get away from that boat. But he's dragging that boat, and it weighs a ton. 2,000 pounds of men and equipment, so eventually he's got to be tired out. If they're lucky, it will only take 2 hours. It could take a lot longer than that. So part of the standard equipment in the boat is a tub for fresh water, tall green lantern keg that has pipes, tobacco, and hardtack. And right next to the boat steerer's left hand, there is a hatchet, ready to cut the line if the whale should decide to sound or dive right down into the water. A sperm whale can dive 2 miles down into the water, and they don't want to go with him, so they would have to cut the line. But they didn't lose many whales that way. I think the whale is so eager to get away from the boat, he swims just as hard and fast as he can, straight on out, until He's tired. And that's when they start pulling up on the line. We now have what I call an early special effect in filmmaking. It's not an elaborate special effect like the things they do these days. Very simple. You just have to remember there are always 6 men in the whaleboat. Well, these 6 men are out of the whaleboat for a little bit. Count them. There are 6 men getting back into the whaleboat. The special effect is, look, now you see shark. Look, now you see man going under. It didn't happen. Nobody was lost on this voyage. It's like all the artwork of the period. You look at the paintings, you think that everybody that went whaling was lost at sea. They were not. It was a dangerous business, no doubt about that. Fishing is the most dangerous business in the country today.
You see the multiple boats
Here's
out
the
there,
boat.
that'd be normal.
He's come forward and he takes a plain, ordinary lance, no toggle anything. There are 2 of those on the starboard side of the whaleboat in the regatta room. His special skill is knowing where to hit the whale's heart and kill the whale. They are very happy. They have 100-barrel giant sperm whale. That is exactly what they would call a 100-barrel whale, a giant. They got a lot of 20, 30, 50, a few 80-barrel whales, very few 100-barrel whales. Now their problem is getting ship and whale together. Somebody's always up in the hoops. When they're not looking for whales, they're keeping track of the boats, and it would be nice if they can sail toward the whale. Oh.
Good. Well, I was asked before we started today for some of the other products by whales, and this is called ambergris. And the question came up because who had the pet octopus? Someone, one must be working here. They had an octopus.
in the aquarium here.
Okay. Well, this is the sperm whales, as we all know, they eat octopus, and they go down a mile deep to get the great big ones.
Squid.
Big squid. Well, they can't digest the beaks, so it gets caught in the intestines, and it forms an abscess, and that's called ambergris. And this is ambergris. It's about $750 a gram today. This particular item was brought in from Australia, and it has a very earthy smell. It won't offend you.
I'm very interested.
Okay.
To make perfume. You ever hear about these
people walking in
the pollution and finding big
Most expensive perfume in the world is made from that. No, don't keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's used to
Make perfume.
perfumes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should have said, it's also an aphrodisiac, but I should have said something.
We're all.
Anybody else? All right. These are the countries, as of when I put this together in 2017, that still consume whale. Any questions or anything we covered tonight? Questions, anybody?
What was the, I know that you said that the supply of whales was depleted on the Atlantic Ocean.
When you
coast
send out a
by-
whale ship and they don't come back with enough whale oil
Right.
to cover the cost, and it's very expensive, you don't send them out anymore.
So in the 1850s, that's when that whale
That map was
And what was the
1850.
time period with that they took 750,000?
During the high day, which is about 30 years, 1840 to 1870.
Okay.
After that, it came less and less. Then after the
And I know-
49, then you got we lost all the ships. Then during the Civil War, we lost another bunch of ships because the South shot the ships up in Alaska.
And I've heard things like, on the East Coast, it was, 350,000 blue whales taken. Are there logs of how many of each species were taken on
You
our
can
coast?
look at Scammond's records. That was probably your best indication.
for everything, just besides Greg?
That-
Okay.
The only real records were the logs, and that was it. Whalers were only interested in what they got in that particular.
Nobody's compiled one.
It's pretty well documented.
Keep in mind
Yeah,
that
they've cleaned up the records a lot. There's a lot of really good documentation now. They've come back.
if you're the owner, you're only looking for profit. You're not looking for anything other than that. The whalers were human beings. A lot of them had severe psychological problems after they were whalers.
Yeah, because it's a screwed up job.
Sure. If you couldn't get any other job, you could always be a whaler. But once you've been a whaler, it's hard to get any other job. Thank you very much.
How was he for a speaker?